Okay, here we go. So, welcome to How to Homeschool with Waldorf and Avoid Burnout. And if you are a hashtagger at all, which I am not, I am totally a novice, but I'm getting better. Kelly's helping me get better. I'm totally a novice, but if you are a hashtagger, my children keep telling me, Mother, I can't believe, Ellie says to me the other day, she's 17 years old. For those of you who don't follow me, I'm going to talk about my kids a lot, but only because it relates to life and Waldorf and all of those things. She says to me the other day, oh, that's cute. I said, what's cute? She said, it's really cute when you and Dad ask me questions about tech. I said, oh, child, would you just stop it? So anyway, back to hashtags. So if you are a hashtagger at all and you want to share, which I'm hoping that you will share, I hope that you will share with our hashtag Waldorf WO Burnout. So WO obviously stands for without. So Waldorf without burnout is our hashtag. And, I want to welcome you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Melissa Nielsen. I own Waldorf Essentials. I have been at this for over 15 years. In fact, I was just calculating a few minutes ago. It's about 17 years that I've been at this. And it does feel like it was just yesterday when I started. So I absolutely understand the trepidation that some of you have. So I want to go ahead and get started. Let's see here. So first of all, I want you to get present. I want you to remember that this is your time. I want you to try to eliminate distractions, close windows if there's loudness outside. Make sure that hopefully you've been able to set aside this time and Dad's got kids or you've got a mother's helper. But I really want you to realize that spending time in this course will be a gift to you and your family. Overwhelming, and this class is going to help you avoid those feelings and cultivate peace. And for those that have showed up that came because your Waldorf friends told you to, and you might not be Waldorf homeschooling, it's going to help you too, in just a ton, even if you're not Waldorf homeschooling. So I want you to feel at ease. You're still in the right place. So I want you to make sure you stay till the end of the class. We are going to give a free bonus at the end called the Waldorf Homeschool Check-in List. I had a lot of fun creating that. So I'm hoping that you'll like it. It'll be something that you can laminate and put on your fridge and have with you all the time so you can really sort of have your check-in daily, especially on those days that are hard and frustrating. So what you'll learn today, you're going to learn the gift of self-evaluation. You're going to understand the role of temperament and being at home and in homeschooling. And you're going to understand why crafting a healthy self and home rhythm sets you free. You're going to also learn how to plan like a pro and still have flexibility, and the role of inner work in avoiding burnout. So, are you ready? All right. So I was raised with many Waldorf-friendly principles. Many were changed or forgotten when my kids came along. So this is a picture of me, if you can get a good laugh, and that's St. Nicholas. And I don't know if you can see, St. Nicholas has got a book in his hand. Somehow, this man, every year when he came to my house to see me, knew all of the things I had done wrong. Now, my kids are super thankful that St. Nicholas doesn't actually come here and give them a list of the things that they had done that was naughty. But I have to laugh because I was probably about 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old in this picture, and my youngest child is 6, and she's very much on the what does St. Nicholas think of her kick right now. And so when she saw this picture, she was like, oh no, what the heck is that all about? I also really have to laugh because I remember very well this apartment we lived in. This was in Germany. I spent the first 6 or so years of my life in Germany, and that wallpaper behind, I have to laugh because I remember touching it. It was that velvet wallpaper from the 60s, which is just really funny, 60s and 70s. So that sort of dates how old I am. But anyways, I was raised with a lot of Waldorf friendly principles, and my mom was a very young and impressionable mom. So she stayed with those even when we left Germany and came to the States. She stayed with those principles, but somehow, just like it happens when we grow into teenagers and young adults, we sort of forget the things that launched us. And I had forgotten a lot of those things when my own kids came along. When I was finally brought back to Waldorf, I wanted to dive in fully, but I found it so overwhelming. And I have to tell you, 17 years ago, it was still overwhelming. I did not have what you guys have available to you now. I don't know how I would have done it if I had had so many distractions. 17 years ago, nobody was blogging. Well, maybe a few people were blogging. Some veteran Waldorf bloggers, some older ones were blogging, but it was nothing that I was paying attention to on a regular basis. I was working with Waldorf teachers directly because there were not really any curriculum providers. I was on my own. I was also isolated from the time that my oldest child was 5. We moved to Idaho from Salt Lake City. And when we lived in Salt Lake City, I had a group and I had sort of gotten on my feet a little bit, but we moved to Southeast Idaho and there was like nobody there. I had one friend over time, but it was just the two of us. And so I really totally understand what it feels like to be overwhelmed and to sort of feel like you're in it by yourself. I found over time that doing Waldorf successfully at home was really only 20% Waldorf and 80% me. So I knew I really needed to work on the me part. I want to hear from you during the class. So again, if you're just joining us late, I want to make sure that you please use the chat box. The chat is open, and Kelly, my awesome Pink and Sparkly office assistant, and really that is her title, the Pink and Sparkly office assistant. If you look at her Facebook profile, I'm pretty sure it says that. So she will help me to make sure that I get your questions. We will have a Q&A portion at the end, but I want you to feel like you can send her questions and she'll push them to me if she feels like they need to be done before we get to the Q&A. So here we go. Let's dig in. Let's start with the gift of self-evaluation. And I pulled a few quotes from the internet that I liked, and then I also inserted in here some of the things that I really love. So I love this one, and it's pretty new. I just grabbed it the other day when I was putting together these slides. Self-evaluation leads to self-elevation. And when I read that, I thought, oh my goodness, and not only is it just a play on words, but it really is a way for us to really think about bringing ourselves up to the next level. So self-evaluation shouldn't be something that we're afraid of. And I also love this one. This one I pulled off of an Instagram post. If you can just imagine, it says introspection, self-evaluation, and taking corrective measures in progress. Thank you for your patience. Gosh, I feel like that on a regular basis. So it's okay for us to sort of take that step back and go, okay, I know I'm failing, or I know I'm falling down here a little bit, but I'm getting back up and I'm fixing it. And then this one is one of my favorites. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. You know, I was turned on to William Henley's poetry in the movie Invictus, which is a movie about Nelson Mandela. That's quite a few years old. It's probably at least 10 years old. And I remember thinking about his plight in that movie, and really, obviously he was in a much different plight than I was, but at the time, it seems like I was going through a lot of tumultuousness with my ex-husband, and I really felt like I needed to become the master of my fate and really own it and really understand it. So pull out your workbook. It's time for us to get busy. I want you to go to the rating questions. Now, your workbook was sort of divided into a couple of different sections, and there was a section that you weren't supposed to look at until you got to the class today. So here we are. So I want you to turn to those pages, and I want you to rate from 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest, like you don't feel like you're good at this at all, and 10 being, hey, you rock this, you feel really good about this, and you are doing it great every day. So that would be your range. And I want you to rate these things on here. I'm going to give you about 60 seconds to do that. And I want you to just take the time. Now, if you stumble over one, or if you feel like you want to write a little bit, that's why that little box is there next to it. I want you to feel like you can write notes about things. Often when I do this self-evaluation, and I use these same tools, when I do the self-evaluation, I will write down, like if my personal rhythm has been lacking, I might write down, I've been sick, trying to get myself back together. Because what I want you to realize when you kind of go back to this later is this is a snapshot in time from February 22nd, 2018. This is not the totality of your personal life. This is just a snapshot in time. And that's really what an evaluation is. It's looking at the snapshot in time and then where you can go with it from there. So I want you to take just a few seconds and don't overthink it. Really don't overthink it. Really just go ahead and write your numbers down. And like I said, jot down any things next to them. Like one of the things that can toss a personal rhythm is if you just had a baby. Even if that just had a baby is 12 to 14 months old and you're still exhausted and you're trying to get that all together, write that down, because that becomes, like I said, that snapshot and will help you remember when you're looking back on why you were struggling. So go ahead and do that for just a second. You're doing that. I'm just going to make sure all of our recording is going good. Very good. Okay, so I'm giving you some time. We are going to move on. If you don't finish this while we're having the class, absolutely go back to it later. I also want you to use these same pieces in the future. All right, here we go. Now, I don't want you to worry if these numbers are all over the place. This is, again, just a jumping off point. Just a jumping off point. So evaluation 1 to 2 times a year is key to knowing where you really are and whether or not you're doing a good or bad job. And then you can make a plan from there. And I think we live in this time when we get really sucked into the bad part of it. And I want you to know that it is what it is. I have done this evaluation in years past, and I've been doing evaluations for a long time, but in years past, I've done them and I thought, oh man, there's no way to go from here but up. And it is okay if you were in that space, because it's just an allowing you to see it on paper. And so often we kind of get, we don't want to know. We would rather not know, because if we don't know, then it's okay, right? But that we really have to step out of that space, because then we don't change and we really don't move beyond where we are here. And so I think that really owning what your evaluation says, it's an okay thing to do, even though it's kind of painful sometimes. So one of my favorite quotes about reflection is by Thomas Merton. And I just love this because it really is about where we are going. What can we gain by sailing to the moon if we are not able to cross the abyss that separates us from ourselves? Isn't that the truth? If we are not able to really look at what our struggles are, then we really don't know where we're going. So don't run away. We're about to get deep. I don't want you to struggle. I don't want you to get scared. If you've got knots in your stomach, just take a deep breath. We're going to walk forward here. So let's talk about your connection with Source and your personal temperament. No matter what your religious persuasion, connecting with Source is essential for life progression and very important for homeschooling with Waldorf. In Renewal of Education, Steiner said, "No hands can bless in old age unless in childhood they have been folded in prayer." Now, again, don't run away. Don't get scared, because we're going to just keep going. I want you to plow through this. Don't run away. Let's talk about your inner work. So inner work can be so many things, but ultimately it becomes your connection with Source. Inner work is a means of cultivation. Prayer, meditation, pondering, self-care, mindfulness, all are inner work and all bring us closer to Source, that piece of divine light in us all. Our confidence is directly tied to our relationship with Source. True confidence comes from a deep knowing that we are loved and accepted no matter what. It isn't just about knowing that it isn't just about what you know, but it is knowing that you can move forward and learn more. Someone also that always has your back. If the people in your physical world have let you down time and again, then you might be thinking, no way, this is not for me. Nobody has my back. And I have been there. I have been in that place where I have felt like nobody had my back. And then I realized how wrong I was, because Source always has your back, always. You might not like the messages you get. There are times that I have spent time in prayer and meditation. I'm like, are you kidding? You really want me to do that? Okay, here I go. But you're always going to get good answers, even if they're not the ones that you want to have. And your view of whether or not it's a he, a she, an it, a they, that Source does not matter what you call it, but Source always has your back. So what your name is for deity is really of no consequence. It's just a knowing. that you have a source and that they have your back. Okay, here we go. I want you to grab your workbook and I want you to write down one thing that you will do today to cultivate inner work. Now, I realize that many of you are joining us and it's the last part of the day. So when you're done here, you're probably going to just fall into bed, or maybe you've got dinner to still do, or maybe you'll be talking with your partner or what have it be. I want you to commit to doing one thing to cultivate your inner work before you go to bed tonight. It doesn't have to be big. You could take a bath by yourself. You could spend some time in meditation on your own. You could just close the bathroom door and let them think you're in there doing your business and take a deep breath. I have so been there. I always sort of laugh because the children that I love and adore are my children when the day starts. But by the time it's about 3 o'clock, sometimes they're these people that I have to be with. And so I totally understand if you're in that place. So we're really working to keep you from going to that place on a regular basis. But I want you to really write down what's one thing that you will do to cultivate your inner work today. Just one. And then I want you to remember that all temperaments can do this. So let's dig into how it might look differently for each temperament. So the sanguine mom, she might feel the most confident when her lessons are all planned out, but she's busy. She's pretty good at planning, but not always great at executing. She can be deeply spiritual, but she might jump from concept to concept rather than going deep. And that's not a bad thing. It just is. It just is. She has a lot of will to tame, but it totally can be done. Time blocking is her friend. Now, time blocking, if you don't know what time blocking is, it's something that I latched onto really and truly about a year ago. And it really, when I really do it well, it totally sets me free. So time blocking just means that you are taking a specific set of minutes and you are only doing one thing for those minutes. And it could be 15 minutes, it could be 5 minutes. And the thing is with the sanguine mom, and I'm part sanguine, I've got a choleric sanguine thing going here. When the sanguine in me gets out of control, that's when I know I need to time block. And what that looks like for me is I might sit down at the computer to answer emails and end up like buying yarn instead. Do you ever do that? Like maybe I love it when I go, oh, I'm going to look up on my phone what the weather is going to be. And somehow I get dragged from the weather channel to Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest. I don't know how I got there, but goodness. So the sanguine really could use some time blocking. It becomes your friend. That just means that you force yourself to stay within what you're going to do for that block of time. And every time you feel yourself swaying from it, you go, nope, I'm going to go back to that time block. I'm going to go back to what it was that I was doing. And it's especially important when you're trying to be present with your children. If you find yourself wandering, you want to force yourself to go back. And it is okay to force yourself to change habits. It is okay to do that, I promise. The melancholic mom might feel most confident when she is planned out and her lessons are prepared, but she often struggles because she worries that she'll do it wrong. So she stands in her own way. Spiritually, she's likely to either be long-suffering and devoted, feeling unworthy, or she might reject faith altogether because she doesn't feel like she can find something that has her right view of compassion. She may really, really struggle in that area. She will overcome her struggles by planning, with planning if she just learns to push through and have true confidence and trust herself. And I know that's a hard thing for a lot of melancholy moms to do. So we're going to work on that. She will regularly have to check in with herself and make sure that she's doing things out of love and not out of guilt. So I want you, if you're a struggling melancholy, I want you to ask yourself, if you felt horrible the last few days or any time in the recent past, ask yourself, were you doing things out of love or were you doing things from feeling guilty? And that sort of goes also to the flip side of that. If you are being a little passive aggressive in what you're asking of people. It happens, and it's okay. It's okay because if you know that you're doing it, then that's the first step in moving on, right? She will need to build up her will, but once she starts doing it, then she will feel the beauty that can come from being balanced. I have some amazing melancholy mom friends that as long as they stay in a good balanced place and they check in with themselves regularly, they are golden, and they really feel like that they can really do this planning, this homeschooling thing. But it's about keeping that balance, and it's about really knowing where that tipping point is. So if you are if you're somebody that struggles with depression, then you really want to know where your edge is. And then you want to stay far away from that edge if possible. And if you know you have to tiptoe close to that edge, you want to be aware of it. And you want to know, hey, I'm getting close to the edge. I'm feeling like there might be a trigger coming up here. There might be something that's going to keep me from staying in my happy place. But you're being aware of it. And that's always super, super duper important. Okay. Moving on, the phlegmatic mom might feel most confident when they are planned and prepared, but they get overwhelmed easily. Now, I have to tell you, I have 3 phlegmatics in my life that I love dearly. My oldest son is phlegmatic. My husband is phlegmatic. And Super Sam, for those of you who know who Super Sam is, he's the character in a lot of our stories, but he was also based off of my son, who is 11 and a half. Phlegmatic to the core. So when I say they can get overwhelmed easily, I'm talking about, like, if we want to go to In-N-Out, Eric cannot order. But he loves In-N-Out because they only have like 6 things on the menu, right? So it's really easy. He can't mess things up, and people can't make too many choices. But he will often sit back if he's the driver and just let me talk over him. And it's not about, it doesn't have anything to do with respect. It's more to do with me knowing that it makes him uneasy. And so it's more like me supporting him. So if you have a phlegmatic in your life that gets overwhelmed easily, or if you get overwhelmed easily, it's again really important to know where your tipping point is. Because what I know happens with phlegmatics, when they get overwhelmed and they get pushed to the edge too far, they blow up. And it's not a pretty sight. It's about as pretty as it is when the choleric blows up. It's not any fun. So anyways, getting started is usually their biggest hurdle, but once they own it, they are golden. They just have to stay on the path. Spiritually, they tend to be loyal. They'll question and ponder, but usually they sort it all out. Steiner called them the sleeping choleric. They have some great stamina once they get going, and they also will do well building up their will, as it can seem in short supply. Like, a lot of times people think phlegmatics are lazy, and it's not that they're lazy. They're super methodical. Like, I have to tell you, as a choleric, I had to really get used to my husband and it's not lazy, it's methodical. Like, he doesn't ever need a to-do list, and that drives me crazy. It drives me crazy that he doesn't need a to-do list, because I need a to-do list for everything, for the sanguine in me and for the Miss Bossy Pants in me. I need to know what's going on. And it drives me crazy that he can keep it all in his head, but he can. And it's usually very methodical, and he usually doesn't forget anything. I definitely think that when we think about the elephant that never forgets, totally phlegmatic trait. They will also benefit from time blocking because they do tend to be a lot more lax, and they can get overwhelmed easily. Time blocking is their friend as well, because if they can stay focused for that period of time, then often it will awaken that sleeping choleric up, and it will help them. So the choleric, and this is me, ladies. I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but I have this mug that says Boss Lady on it. This is me. The choleric needs to be in charge. She feels good when she feels like she knows it all. Guilty. She wants to be planned and seeks to have it all done months in advance. If she comes to it late, then she will survey the landscape and work with what she can. And I have a lot of choleric moms that sort of come to Waldorf later than, and honestly, there's no coming to Waldorf late. You're still coming to Waldorf. So there's not a late, but they feel like maybe they started in 3rd or 4th grade rather than started at kindergarten. But those moms that come in and they're cholerics and they jump in, they survey the landscape and they figure out what they have to work with, whether it be their budget might not be super high or their knowledge is not where they want it to be. And they will hone in on those 1 or 2 things that they can really harness, and they are golden. And then they are like planning out the next 5 years after that. Spiritually, she can be all in and a leader, or she can be all out and not willing to follow any path. She also has a lot of will that needs taming. So like the sanguine and the choleric have a ton of will. It just needs to be tamed, where the melancholy and the phlegmatic have lower will that needs to be built up a little bit. So the choleric mom may have trouble with empathy, and it may feel like a struggle to connect with her children deeply. To soften herself, so listen up, choleric moms, She will do well to let others be in charge. I have to tell you, it's really hard. A choleric will generally only yield to another choleric that she trusts. So if you are having trust issues, you have to look at the people around you and look at your temperament and their temperament. And she would also do really well to let her partner spoil her. One of the best things that I can do for myself is to let Eric, my husband, do whatever he wants for me. And it's not going to be big because that's not him, but all those little things, that really means a lot to me. The other thing that you can really do if you're choleric and to connect with your children is to let them be in control of the flour when you bake. I know that seems like this tiny thing, tiny thing, but I'm telling you, letting go of the control, because in your head you're thinking, if I let this child pour this flour, it is going to be all over this dang kitchen. So you're thinking about the mess you have to clean up later. And really and truly, that is the best way, though, that you can get over needing to be in control of things, because you can't be in control of everything when you have children. It's just doesn't work. You can be in control of your own attitude and sort of how you deal with things. I sort of laugh because I'm 45 this year, and I have 5 children. For those of you who don't know me, my oldest is 21 and my youngest is 6. And so that's a lot of will building for me over the last 21 years of being a parent. And I sort of laugh that during that time I have become more patient but less tolerant. And I think when I was younger, I was probably more tolerant but less patient. And there was some flip that happened to me right around age 40 where I kind of was like, it's okay, but I'm not going to tolerate that. So we are done with that. And so really, it's kind of funny as you balance your temperament as you get older to sort of see when those tipping points were for you. Okay, the important thing is to remember that you should be working towards balance as adults. We are often a mix of 2 temperaments, and as we gain life experience and learn to control our will, we should be comfortable with many situations, even for a short time. And what that means is the choleric needs to be able to sit down and just chill with the phlegmatic, and be able to run and be crazy with the sanguine. And the phlegmatic needs to be able to jump up and run and be with sanguine. That's how we really balance ourselves as adults. And honestly, when you are seeking balance for yourself, it makes you a better mother, and it makes things go so much easier in your home because there aren't these power struggles, and you're not really struggling to have to be in charge because it already comes a little bit more naturally because you know how to work with everybody. And one of the things that I find really interesting is that especially since I've really, I've always kind of been a temperament gal ever since I've been through, around Waldorf for the last 17 or so years, just because it has always been very healing for me to be able to look at my own past and look at how I grew up, and maybe things that, we all have that saying like, well, I never would have talked to my mother that way, or I never would have done that I never would have looked at my dad that way, or if our parents had had the gift of understanding temperament, how much different our childhoods would have been. I know that my own mother, who is incredibly involved in my life now, because she can be, she's relaxed, she's retired, she sees the gift of things like temperament, and she has major aha moments on a regular basis. So if you are struggling with temperament, I want you to really take this one to heart, because temperament is so huge in understanding your partner, your children, and definitely yourself. So also, while we're on the topic of children, while we might guess what temperament they are when they are young, they can make dramatic shifts around those 3-year changes. So those 3-year changes, I'm talking about 6 years, not so much at 3 years because it's really hard to tell then. But definitely you can see some changes that happen around the 6-year change, definitely the 9-year change. The 9-year change can be so traumatic for children. And there tends to be no rhyme or reason. Some children can have perfectly happy home life, and there's just some traumatic shift that happens, or they could have a lot of trauma and the shifts are big. My daughter that's now 17, we had some trauma in our lives when she was around 9, and she went from being Miss Happy Sanguine. Honestly, that's when the melancholy showed up, was around the 9-year change. So watch for those times, be aware of that it could be coming, and really do your due diligence about getting to know your child and their temperament. So, how does temperament inform us as mothers, wives, and friends? Excuse me. Understanding yourself and others lays a powerful foundation for peace and harmony in your homeschooling, your partnering, and beyond. I want to read that again because I really want you to understand me. Understanding yourself and others lays a powerful foundation for peace and harmony in your homeschooling, your partnering, and beyond. That does not mean that you will always feel like you're on it. I mean, there are situations in my life all the time where I really understand the other person's temperament, but that does not mean they do not make me mad. They still make me mad. And it's a lot about me figuring out how I have to sort through and how I then react to that other person. There are plenty of people that help me to test that on a daily basis. Thankfully, most of the time they're not in my house. Most of the time I can shut the door and be done with that. And that's my hope for you, is that you can really figure that out for your home and that you really feel good about things. Okay, let's see. Moving on here. So does my temperament inform my rhythm? Rhythm is a foundational piece in Waldorf, especially in the home. So Steiner said, and I love this quote too, there is a universal cosmic rule that we must never forget. Rhythm restores power. Write it down. Rhythm restores power. Only human beings lead a chaotic life with no rhythm. Nature has deserted it. So think about that, especially if you're struggling with your rhythm, because honestly, we have all of this that's sort of thrown at us in our society today, and it works to really throw us off our rhythm. But if we just take 5 minutes and look at nature, and if I live very close to the beach in a very tiny house. People say, "Oh, you're so lucky." I am very lucky. I feel very blessed. We live in a teeny tiny apartment. But I'm okay with that because we get to be close to the beach. So, and we have these parrots, and I can go for a walk right now, and I could look at the amazing rhythm that the pelicans have. The pelicans have been gone, and now they're coming back. They're coming back to nest. So this rhythm it's very apparent everywhere. We just like to forget about it, or we like to pretend it doesn't exist. And in doing that, we really are losing a lot of power. So different temperaments will have different challenges when it comes to crafting a healthy home rhythm. I want you to take a moment in your notes, and I want you to write down what you think your biggest hurdle is. So I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to do that. Write down what you think your biggest hurdle is. Okay. Now I want you to think about what you think your biggest hurdle is, because I'm about to challenge it. Because unless you wrote this down, then you're wrong. The biggest hurdle to your rhythm is you. It is nobody else. It's not your partner. It's not your children. It's not your work schedule. It's you. Rhythm is tied to you 100% of the time. Why? Well, because we got to do this lucky thing called mothering. It's always tied to you. If you look at inner family relationships and look at where the mother is, for good or bad, the mother is always the center of everything. So do you want that to be good, or do you want that to be bad? Once you own it, then you can have things like sickness or time off make you swerve, but you always have the ability to step right back into place. Time for you to be an agent and own your rhythm. Remember that rhythm is not a schedule, that it flows like a river. It is much more than the color of the day or what day you will be baking. So if you're in Waldorf land and you're thinking only about the things that happen in that kindergarten rhythm where you're knowing when your baking day is, or you know when your shopping day is, or you're doing the color of the day, it's much bigger than that. Rhythm is much, much deeper than that. And the sooner you harness that, the better your life will be, and the better, more peace you'll have cultivated in your life. Remember that it is a gentle yet deliberate breathing in and out each day. Now, we sort of talk about this breathing in and out thing with Waldorf. We talk about it with our lessons. We talk about it with circle time. But really and truly, I want you to understand that your rhythm in general is deliberate, but breathing in and out. So if you imagined this breathing that your body sort of does by itself, if you imagine being very deliberate with it, that is what your rhythm is. You want to be very deliberate in the things you do. That doesn't mean it's a schedule. It just means it's a deliberate moving here, moving there. You're driving the boat, always. So here's a challenge. Before you can craft your home rhythm, you need to start by looking at your actual rhythm. And I know that's scary. The first time I did this, but I have to tell you, I did this years ago. I had this idea for this program, this planning for, not planning for peace, excuse me, the Rhythm Roundup Challenge that we started. I think it's been about 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. And I started the challenge because I was really trying to sort out why in the heck I was still struggling with some certain aspects of my rhythm. I had the big picture down. There were some little pictures. And I was like, oh, well, maybe if I really figured out where my time is actually going, then it will be a big aha to me. And oh my goodness, it was a huge aha to me. So before you can really craft your rhythm, before you can make that beautiful rhythm chart that you see everywhere, before you can hire the person on Etsy to make it for you or sit down and color it out, you have to know where your time really is going. So use the form in your workbook, and I want you to track your rhythm for a few days, just like 3 days. I think I gave you a 3-day rhythm tracking there. 3 days is good. 5 days is better, but 3 days is good because it will give you an idea of what you're actually doing. Once you have an actual rhythm, then and only then can you begin to craft something. But first, you must see where your time is really going, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You have to write down, spent 15 minutes on Facebook. You have to write down, got in a fight with somebody. You have to write down, went on a walk with kids. You have to write down, overslept. You have to write those things down so you really can see where that time is going. Because I have people say to me, Melissa, I don't know how you get everything done every day. And I said, because I'm deliberate. I know what I'm doing when I get up in the morning. I know what I'm doing around lunchtime, and I know what I'm doing before I go to bed. How do I know that? Well, I know what my actual rhythm is. I know what my natural man's rhythm is. I know what I'd like to be doing. And I also know the deliberate things that need to go in there every day so that we can get the things done that we need to do. You know, we run a business. We have these kids that we homeschool. And, you know, like I said, we have 5 children. I still have 3 at home. I have a junior in high school. I have a 5th grader, and I have a 6-year-old that thinks she's 1st grader. And we can talk about that more for anybody who has any questions about that later. But absolutely, I am very busy. And yes, my husband is home with me. We could not run our business and do the things we do if we didn't do that together. So a lot of times people will say to me, oh, well, your husband's home. That makes it easy. And I go, oh, back up the truck, honey, because it's not always been easy. When he first came home, he was a newspaper reporter, and he worked for a newspaper in Idaho Falls right after we got married. And Eric and I have been married for almost 13 years. I have a practice husband that didn't work out, but I have the 3 older children are from him. And so we've had a lot of things go on in our lives. We have had, we've had to do the co-parenting and the blended family thing. We've had to do all of those things. We've had to really understand each other's work schedules. And when Eric worked for the paper, our business wasn't like it is now. When he came home, that really allowed us to build our business and to be strong. And that's when the seeds of Thinking, Feeling, Willing were born in our other programs that we have, and really building that into helping people's lives. So when people say to me, oh, it's easy because your husband's home, I go, oh, not necessarily. We still have to work around each other. And he, being phlegmatic, has a lot of challenges that he has to work through. So yes, while it's great, if we weren't running a business, I would be at home, and I would be doing all of those rhythm things every day, and he would be off working somewhere. So I absolutely know what it's like to have them there and have them gone. So I sympathize both ways. There's no perfect, easy answer. You just have to find the one that works for you. So when you understand your habits and are set creating your rhythm, then you can put some pro planning tips into action. So here we go. Remember what I said. I said that being at home with Waldorf is 80%, 20%. 80% you, 20% Steiner. So we've covered the 80% with you. We talked about rhythm. We talked about inner work. We talked about temperament. And I hope that when you have the replay of this, you'll listen to that part again, especially if you need some more time to dive into that. And I hope you'll ask questions during the Q&A as well. But now we're going to dive into the 20% that's Steiner. So we're going to start with these rules. So I want you to write them down because they are not in your workbook. So rule number 1, start early. April is ideal for a September school year. Yes, I know that sounds crazy. People say to me, are you serious? April? Yes, ma'am, I'm serious. Or yes, sir, if you're a dad that's planning. April is ideal. And we have our Planning for Peace journal, and we sort of go through each one of these steps, but I wanted to give you a good taste of it right now. If you are not a September to May school year, maybe you're a January. I know that people in the Southern Hemisphere often start January or February. So that means that you're talking about July for a January school year or August for a February school year. Again, I know that sounds crazy, but I promise you, especially if you have been struggling with burnout, it is because you are cramming too much stuff in. So take a deep breath and just walk this path with me for a few minutes. Rule number 2, pick a curriculum that resonates with you. All true Waldorf curricula should be about the same in content. So pick an author that really speaks to you. And it needs to be more than pretty. You need to ask questions. How is their support? What happens if you get stuck? Have the authors ever homeschooled? What are their reviews? Remember that expensive does not always mean best. Rule number 3, when you receive your curriculum, read it cover to cover. I mean it, like from page 1 all the way to the end. Curriculum writers write the opening chapters for a reason. It will answer many of your questions. I have to tell you that as a curriculum writer myself, 9 out of 10 emails that I get regarding curriculum for the year are answered. The questions are answered in the front matter in those first chapters. And I'll usually say, did you read that? In fact, sometimes I have an autoresponder in my email, especially during the planning, the months that are heavy planning, like July, August, September. And I'll say, I'll answer your email in a couple of days, but I want to make sure that you've read the front matter of your curriculum because so much is answered there. So if you're guilty of that, make a big star on it. I'll tell you who's guilty of that. The sanguines are guilty of it. And sometimes the phlegmatics are guilty of it. It's not a bad thing. It just is what it is. You're learning new habits, right? So the choleric, I'm telling you, has read it cover to cover like 6 times before April even started because she wants to know. Okay, so now it's time to plan. Planning comes in 4 stages. Are you ready? I'm going to show you some actual planning pages that we have used. And these come from our Planning for Peace journal. So if you've had that in the past, these won't be strange to you. We are getting ready to revise it for 2018 for the next school year. That will be happening in the next 2 weeks. But the one that we have there now is amazing. It's amazing. So many people came to us and said, wow, I can't believe that this journal is so comprehensive. And it really is. It's the secrets that aren't really secrets. It's the things that I really thought that everybody else was doing. Like the evaluation stuff and the in-depth planning. But by laying it all out, I really believe that it helped a lot of people get over some hurdles. So we're going to sort of go through them step by step now. So again, it comes in 4 stages. So the first one is the overall view of the year. Now I want you to look at these. I'm going to use my cursor up here. You can see that I've got low tide. And the reason why is because we love to go to the tide pools. And so every month we have a tidal calendar and I write the days that the tide is low. That's something that's very specific to our area. I do that so that when I'm doing the rest of my planning for that month, I'm always keeping that in mind because we would go to the tide pools every day if we could, and just look at the critters that we find there, from sea slugs to sea stars. But maybe you're in the mountains. I remember when we lived in the mountains, I really tracked when what the weather was in the canyons. So I wanted to know, hey, if we want to go on a hike, I wanted to know what the weather was as much as I could know for the month. So where I have a tidal calendar for a year, I know you kind of don't have sort of a weather calendar that far out, but you can definitely use some extra spots here on your calendar to write anything that you want to make sure that you do in those months that you don't want to forget when you do your more in-depth planning. We also have a co-op that our kids belong to that we run. And so these are the topics that we're covering in co-op on those months. I wanted to make sure I wrote them in there because when I was getting ready to put together the stories for my youngest, I wanted to make sure that all of her stories sort of folded into what we were doing at co-op. Okay. So then you go from that big plan down to a block plan. So I want to first give a caveat that if you are planning for first grade, this is going to look a little bit different. You're not going to have as many blocks because you're teaching the letters. So you've got a fairy tale block and you've got a math block, and that might sort of flow in together, especially if you're using a curriculum like ours where they sort of flow in together. But I still want you to do these pages just because I think it is super helpful when you're trying to wrap your brain around everything. So this is a block plan that I did for Sam. Like I said, see, I told you I call him Super Sam. He actually comes by that. I can yell Super Sam across the park, and he knows that he's the only Sam that I'm talking to. He did have to draw the line, though. There are 2 Sams in his karate class, and our dear friend is his sensei, and his name is Jerry. And Jerry said, "So Sam, should I call you Super Sam in class?" And he's like, "Please don't." So apparently that's only something I can call him. He's 11 and a half, so he's kind of in that age of not believing place. But anyway. So these were his block notes for 5th grade. So he's working on 5th grade. You can see here in my time frame, I was sort of breaking it up. So we live in San Diego. The weather is very different because it's almost always warm, except for right now in February. We are having a cold snap, which I know makes people laugh because it's cold to us. We've lived here for 4 years and our bodies have acclimated to being warmer. And right now it's a little bit colder. And so I don't like it. We came from Utah and Idaho, and Kelly, my lovely assistant, likes to remind me on a regular basis how cold it is there. I also have a son that lives in Utah too, who I have to say he's really enjoying the snow. So anyway, this time frame here, you might usually only have like a 1 month or a 6-week time frame, or maybe even a 2-week time frame. But here, because I was splitting it up, I wanted to do some of it in August, and I wanted to do some of it in September and some of it in May, just because of the different activities that I thought we would be doing. So then I made sure I had the topics that we wanted to cover, any field trips that we wanted to go on. And then I broke it up here. So this is then you go from the big to then the overall block plan. So then you go from that overall block plan and you condense it down even more. This is what the weeks then will look like. So this is a different block. This is an ancient cultures block that we were supposed to do in January, and we got a little bit behind. So we're starting to work on it now. We've been plowing through geometry. So even I get behind. But anyway, so this is his ancient cultures block, part 1. So there is a part 2 because there's no way we're getting through very much in just 4 weeks because there's so many ancient cultures for the 5th grade. So I want you to feel free to mix that up and to really feel like you can utilize a space like this. I wrote down what it was that we were doing for each week. And so that's like then goes from the big block to then condense down into weekly segments, breaking it down. That then, and you can see I wrote a completed checklist thing here so that as you complete it, you can know that it's done. So you can quickly look at things when you're doing your evaluations then for the end of the year and know what you completed and what you didn't. So then these are the daily plans, and I'm not quite sure why this one's all squiggly. I promise it didn't look like that when I scanned it, but this is the daily plan. This is the week. So this is the week of November 27th. These are the daily plans for Sam. And I want to say something really quick. You'll see that this side is in pink. That's for my daughter. This side is in orange. I color code my kids when it comes to planning. It makes it so much easier than when I'm sitting down to flip through things to know who it is that I'm looking at. I also am a huge fan of washi tape, which I know is a silly thing, but I kind of am ashamed of my washi tape collection. But when I go through my planning journal, each kid has their own washi tape. So I know all of the ones that look like gnomes. So it's like red with white polka dots. Those are all Super Sam's. Those are because he's my little gnome. So those are all his pages. And I know Soraya's pages are all about unicorns, and Ellie's pages are all about beach things and things like that. So it's easy for me to grab. I usually put washi tape on the edges of the book. So it's easy for me to look at the side of the book and know where everybody's at. So just a little tidbit for those of you who are using the Planning for Peace Journal or planning to next year, that's one of the things that I do. But I definitely color code my kids. So this is the week of November 27th. I make a week's goal every Sunday night before the next week. It goes back to that self-evaluation piece. If I don't stop and evaluate where my kids are and things that we want to do, guess what? They don't get done. So I definitely sit down and put out a goal for the week. So my goal for this week was to review the animals of Africa. Now I'm going to back up a little bit and talk specifically about this lesson plan. So when I did the man and the human being and animal block in 4th grade, I did not have Betty Staley's amazing Africa book. So if you are getting ready to teach 5th grade, really any of the grades, her book on Africa is top notch. And it goes through different grades and where you can pull things for each one of the grades. It's incredibly beautifully done. So I didn't have it when I did his grade 4 man and animal block. So I wanted to make sure that we covered, as we were getting ready to cover Africa, that we covered some of those animals that we didn't cover. So you'll see here, my husband and I both teach. So this says November 27th. Monday, Dad was teaching. Why do I have this on there? Well, Dad and I are usually the only ones who look at this journal. Sometimes the kids look at it. The kids will look at it, especially Sam, if he wants to know who's teaching on a certain day. Usually we're pretty consistent. I tend to work Mondays and Thursdays, and Dad teaches Monday and Thursday, and then I teach the other days. So, but I write down there really for my own continuity and clarity as well. Then when I'm planning the rest of it out, or he's planning the rest of it out, he knows what he's responsible for. He knows what I've done, and it melds together very nicely. So then I also have his reading here, and I know it just says pages 43 to 47, Jane Goodall. Again, it's from that amazing Africa book. And so there's a section on Jane Goodall that I wanted to make sure that he read with her work. He's doing math practice because in 5th grade, we start doing more math practice. And I write his handwork down. So don't neglect handwork. I know I'm kind of a stickler about handwork. In this case, we were working on a project from our co-op, and then our music practice, which I wrote our music lessons up here. And I will say that our new Planning for Peace journal will have a little music planner in it. My lovely co-author for Music Unfolds is actually working on some planning pages now. So if you'll be waiting for that, you'll be happy for that. Then I also have his main lesson portions here. And I wrote, I wanted to make sure that we covered animals we didn't cover last year. So then it goes from this is planning that's all done in advance. So when I sit down on Sunday to look at the week, this is already done because I started early. So then on Sunday when I sit down and I know what's coming up. I go through any drawings that maybe I need to get done that haven't been done already. I pull any songs. I can adjust this. Like if we didn't get to the songs, I can adjust this a little bit. Whiteout is definitely my friend. I carry it, well, not whiteout, but the correction tape everywhere. So I can change things around if I need to. But the foundation is already laid. It's very, very easy then to move things around if you need to. And if I get sick, guess what? And we don't do this week of November 27th because we were all ill. I can just put some correction tape there and put a new date there. It's super easy. But the foundation is already laid. And also conversely, if I get sick, but Dad's not sick, he can jump in there and he knows exactly what my lessons are. I'm going to talk about how that helps here in just a minute as well. I also wanted to give you a kindergarten planning page just so that you could sort of see what I had laid out for kindergarten. And you notice I made a ton of notes on here because we're doing other things. So these will be in some revisions that we have for Planning for Peace this year. But I wanted to show it just so that you could sort of see what my kindergartner's life looked like and how we packed it. It wasn't super packed. It was very chill. She had a great time. Okay, so now I want you to breathe. Take a deep breath, take a look at your lessons, and decide what skills you need to learn. Once you've done this 4-step process of knowing where everything is and what your planning has to be, then you can look at, okay, these are the skills that need to get stronger. So I'm going to be the first one to say, I do not have all my skills down, not for a minute. I am continually learning, continually refining. Even though I've done this for a lot of years, I'm sending the 4th child through grade 5. I always have room for improvement. So people say, do you keep all your drawings from years to years? Yes, I keep them. But then once I draw the next ones, I usually throw the first one away because I've gotten better and I want to use those instead. So if you have questions about sort of lesson layout and things like that, hop onto our YouTube channel and look at the Melissa's Monday videos, because we talk a lot about main lessons. And I'll have Kelly, if you don't mind dropping that link in the comments when you get a second, just so that people can easily go to grab those if they want to. So if you need like nuts and bolts lesson help, that's a really good place to start. So you're taking this deep breath. You know what skills you need to learn. Let's walk on. I want you to think back to those evaluation scores. Do you have this? Do you have skills to acquire? Why are those skills so important? You want to have the main lesson arc completed for at least 2 months before you start teaching, if possible, and stay ahead of it always. Now, I know that's like making your head swim because it sounds like a ton. So let's break that down. If you're talking about a first grader, you're really only talking about two drawings or so a week. And the same with most of the grades until you get to sixth or fifth, sixth, and a little bit higher, where you need to have a little bit more planned out. But I want you to realize it's not an insane amount of things. And, I will say too, if you are struggling with drawing and painting, then hop on and just start with some modeling. Modeling will help. Hold on 1 second. Kelly asked me a question here. Kelly, the YouTube link for the Monday videos, if you don't mind, when you get a moment, that would be great. Okay, here we go. Keep going. If you have questions, make sure that you put them in the chat box. So here's the part where we discuss burnout. So I want you to really listen up. I want you to shut off all distractions. If you've been picking up your phone and messing around, put it down. I want you to listen. Okay, schedule days off. A lot of them. About every 10 to 14 days, we take a break. We go, we have fun, we play, we be silly. Like complete break. No school. Yeah, schooling happens everywhere and all the time, but what I'm saying, I do not make them do anything that is school related. We might go to the zoo, but that doesn't mean I'm saying, okay, we're going to look at these impalas here, and then I want you to go home and write a paper about impalas. Nope, we're just going to have a good time at the zoo. So I want you to make sure that you take plenty of breaks. That's usually where the burnout happens. What happens is you've packed in so much from September and October because you know the holidays are coming. You don't want to take any breaks because you don't want to mess up and you want to be able to take your time off during the holidays. So then you're knocking yourself out, and then your immune system gets low, and then you get sick. And then it becomes this vicious cycle where you cannot get out of it. And you're really struggling between about November and February. And you're just sick and then trying to catch up, and then sick and then trying to catch up. Save yourself the heartache. And from the beginning, schedule enough days off. Like I said, about every 10 to 14 days, we take a day off. And I don't work. Or try to work very little, and we go as a family and we do something. And it can be something really silly and small. We stay home sometimes, but we take a breath out day, a complete breath out day. So I want you to really make sure you do that. That is really a huge secret to being able to sustain it with no burnout. So I want you to say it with me out loud. I don't care who's around you. I want you to say it with me out loud. Overwhelm and burnout are a waste of time. Say it. Overwhelm and burnout are a waste of time. I want you to really own it. I want you to write it down. So I want you to write it down. I want you to put it on Post-it notes. I want you to put it all over your house if you need to. I want you to remember that they really are a waste of time. And when you get to that place where you're starting to feel yourself tipping into the overwhelm and the burnout place, you have to stop yourself and say, I'm going to take a deep breath here because I don't want to go any farther down this road. It is a waste of my time. And then you look at things. You say, am I too tired? Where's my overwhelm coming from? Because one of the things that I will tell you, ladies, is I don't make any decisions if I'm exhausted. Not one. A kid will say, hey, Mom, can I? I'll say, I'm just too tired to make that decision right now. Please ask me in the morning. And I will stop myself. But I haven't always been like that. So I want you to learn from the mistakes that I had in the past. I wish I could go back and undo some things that I just can't undo. But now I'm here. And so I'm telling you, Please, please, please do not make decisions when you're exhausted. Don't fight with your partner when you're exhausted. That's when the most hurt and sadness comes. Don't fight with your children when you're exhausted. There have absolutely been times where with my teenagers, I have said, I love you and I'm really angry with you right now, but I cannot talk to you about this until tomorrow. Or even my 6-year-old where I say, I love you. Can I just hold you for right now? And then I choose a time later to talk about it. I don't want to get into that place because as a choleric, I know what I will do. As a choleric, I will have word vomit and it will not be pretty. So you have to step back and know within yourself, what is it that you do when you get overwhelmed and burned out? Where is it that you go? Do you go to the nasty, passive aggressive, being angry place? Do you retreat? What is it that you do? So knowing your own habits is huge here. So get enough time off from you. I want to say this too, and I have said this for years and years. It is an attachment parenting myth that you can never leave your kids with another parent or get a sitter. It's a myth. If you don't believe me, then I want you to Google Attachment Parenting International and look at their guidelines or their parenting suggestions. I was just there the other day, so I wanted to make sure that nothing had changed in the 10 years since I had looked at it before. So you want to create a support network of close friends, of grandparents, and capable mothers helpers that can give you the time and help that you need. And I am not talking about sitting and eating bonbons. I am talking about 1 day a week or 2 afternoons a week, whatever it is that you need. And it will be different for everyone. As a choleric, I can go and go and go and go and go, and then I have to be done. So I know my speed. You will need to figure out that speed for you. And I have moms tell me all the time, I just can't get a sitter. I can't afford it. Honey, you've got to find a way. You have to find a way because you will exhaust yourself otherwise. And that, again, remember I said it's a waste of your time. You do not want to be in that overwhelm and burnout place. You have to take the time. And you know what happens when you start standing up and deciding you're an agent and deciding that you're taking the time for you? Other people around you take notice. Other people around you go, oh, wow. Oh, she's really taking care of herself. Other people around you decide that, hey, maybe they should listen when you talk and you say, I need some help. So I want you to commit to yourself right now. If you are not regularly getting time off, I want you to write it down in your notes. Melissa said, I need to take some time off. Even if you are the most attached mom, I have to tell you, I have been an attached parent for 21 years. I have had babies that would cry when I wasn't around. But guess what? I knew I needed the time, even if it was just 15 minutes. And that baby will be okay if it's being held by a loving parent or a loving sibling for 15 minutes or a loving grandparent for 15 minutes. Take the time to breathe out for you. You must take it. Okay. Don't overthink this. Just get busy. So, and I want you to remember to stay connected. Remember we talked. Source always has your back. Don't argue with me. Don't try to argue with me because y'all are muted. So you might be thinking in your head, she doesn't know. I know. Source has your back always. And the sooner you allow that inner work to take place and you take that deep breath and you realize you're not on this trip alone, the better you will feel. So I want to tell you how having this preparation has helped me in 2 very dear incidents in my life. This is where the rubber meets the road, ladies. In 2011, I gave birth to a preemie. You see this picture right here was taken in the hospital. You can tell because it's got this stupid hospital blanket. She was the last child. My oldest, who's right here, who I love to pieces, he's 21. He has Asperger's. And so I understand special needs. It's a fun road. There was this time, for those of you who have children with special needs, you know there's a look. So look in their eyes and a look in their face. And there was a time, and it was right about as I was packing this baby up because she was born in the hospital. She was a preemie. She was teeny tiny. Right here, she weighs less than 4 pounds, or less than 5 pounds. She weighs about 4 pounds, 6 ounces, I think, or so, 4'6", 4'8". I'm getting her ready to go home. You can see everything dwarfs her, or everything is just so huge on her. I'm getting her ready to go home, and I'm in the hospital room by myself. And the look that I knew was the look of, oh, this is going to be a fun ride, was in her eyes. And I thought, are you kidding? I have already done this. Why am I here again? And I just had this gentle hand on my shoulder from Source. You can do this. You've done this already. I've got your back. And I remember standing there and just bawling in the hospital room. I didn't want to do it again. I really just could not figure out why in the world I was here again. I did not want to do this again. But guess what? 6 years later, it's amazing. I included this family picture because I wanted you to see how tiny she looked. She was probably a month old in this picture. This was probably Mother's Day, and she was born on Good Friday. So she was probably about a month old there, and she was not 5 pounds yet. It took her forever to get back to her birth weight. And it seemed like I had a newborn for 4 months. I remember when we moved from Idaho down to Utah, she was 4 months old. And I remember looking at her, she was still wearing newborn outfits and thinking, what in the heck? This kid is taking forever to grow. But she was breastfed. She was healthy as a horse. And this, you see this look on her face. She's crying there. She spent the first 18 months of her life just bawling and angry, really, really angry. And it took a lot of time. And I have to tell you, I wrote the second edition and third edition of the second edition of our second and third grade book while Eric paced outside with a crying baby, because it wouldn't matter if I was holding her or he was holding her, she still would cry. And so we really struggled, and I didn't get a ton of sleep, but man, I walked through it. So that was one thing. And what was great about all the planning that I had done, because I've been doing this kind of planning for a lot of years, what was great about all the planning that I had done is, one, we weren't prepared for her to be a preemie. I have midwifery background. I thought I knew it all. I was planning to have an unassisted home birth. I'd been at this for a while. I really felt like I could do it. And I still had a midwife friend that was checking up on me, that was making sure that my blood pressure was okay. And when I was probably at 30 weeks, she said, I'm getting a little bit worried about you. And I was like, why? I've done this. This is the 5th time. This should be like a piece of cake, right? Like it should slide out. It should be happy and easy, right? It should be easy at home. She said, your blood pressure is not what I want it to be. I'm going to give you a week. And if it doesn't sort itself out, you're going to be risked out of me helping you at all. And I was thinking, crap, are you kidding me? Like I had this, I really wanted to have her at home unassisted, and really, really was very adamant about it. And my whole world sort of fell apart then. Thank goodness I had school in the bag, and it was planned because people could step up and help us. We had community members that could step up and help us. I went on bed rest then at about 30 weeks to try and get my blood pressure down. And I did school from bed. My husband did school. That was kind of his like little baptism by fire, because before that he hadn't been doing as much school. He'd been doing some circle stuff and helping out with the little one, but it really was like a complete change. But thank goodness I had all those plans in place. As it turns out, my blood pressure didn't go down. At 31 weeks, she looked at me and she said, I love you, but this is not going to happen with my name on it. And I thought, I couldn't be mad at her. I knew she didn't want to lose her license, and I didn't want to put her in that spot. So, I thought, all right, well, I went then to a certified nurse midwife who I was not super excited about. I will be the first to say I was not trusting at all. So one week into the certified nurse midwife, and she said to me, I can't help you. I'm going to have to refer you to the OB. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, seriously, what the heck? They had already put me on some drugs. I was trying to get my blood pressure down. I was doing acupuncture. I was doing the chiropractor was being adjusted regularly. I was working on my stress, and it was not going down. And I was like freaking out just a little bit. And I remember standing and saying a prayer with my husband, and just, I need whoever takes this case over to not be a jerk. That was my criteria. I needed him to not be a jerk. And as it turns out, the doctor that ended up coming into the room was a man who had just spent, he was an MD, he was, an obstetrician, but he had just spent a year in natural training. And he said to me, we're going to get this baby here, and then I will help you, and you will get off of the medications, and it will be fine. And I remember like taking this huge sigh out. And then he said, we're going to go do a stress test. And my midwifery bells and whistles are going off going, oh no, we're not. And we went and did a stress test, and he refused to tell me how big our baby was. He refused to tell me or how small she was, because he knew that if he had told me, that I would not have come back to the hospital. So long story short, I ended up coming back to the hospital. She was a preemie. She was tiny. Fastest birth ever. I birthed 5 children, and she was one push. But the recovery from that, the recovery of having a preemie, the upheaval in our lives of what happened from having a preemie, we would have lost an entire year of homeschooling. And at this point, if you look at these children, he was 5. She was 11. She was 10. He was 12. He was 14. Those were years I couldn't miss. And she was born in April. Thankfully, we had our year planned out, and we were able to pick things up in the summer. But I'm telling you, having a plan in place is golden. So I'm going to share another thing with you pretty quickly. In 2014, I had a stroke. So as if having a preemie wasn't enough to make my life all crazy, she grew, and you would never know now. She's healthy, bouncing, crazy 6-year-old with some special needs. In 2014, I had a stroke, and I leave this picture here because this picture is very humbling to me. This is what I came home from the hospital with. I am somebody who takes no drugs at all. I hadn't had an antibiotic since she had been born, 6 years, like at the time she was 4 years old, or 2 years old, excuse me. So I had not had any drugs. And so I was put on all these drugs, and I didn't want to be on them. I didn't like the way they made me feel. I was exhausted all the time. But again, I had a plan in place. My stroke was in April. We were in the middle of lesson blocks. People were able to step in and keep us going because I had plans in place. Now, I'm hoping you don't have any preemies and you don't have any strokes. These are pretty extreme circumstances, but I just wanted to use those to illustrate to you that that's where planning really, where the rubber really meets the road. If you are well planned, then anybody can step into your space. Anybody can help. It may not be the perfect lessons that you have, but lessons will still happen, and you will not feel guilty for being down. It will be okay. It will resolve itself. So take a deep breath. I want you to travel back to why you showed up today. Let's talk about what you need to make these strategies that I've been talking about sustainable. You could spin your wheels collecting all the resources that we've talked about and spending hours and hours hunting the internet, and you could spend thousands of dollars on training and curriculum, or you could just come and hang out with us. And I sort of say that jokingly. We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun, and I hope that I can introduce you to a community of moms that know how to do things a little bit differently. Our Thinking, Feeling, Willing Plus program relieves you from the trap of hunting for everything. We provide all of the curriculum for all of the grades. We provide an amazing online program. So I've been at this a long time, like I said, about 17 years, and I know how to cultivate peace. So let me help you. Let me help you get down that road and help you stay there and help you when you get off of it, come back to it. So what's included in our program? There's 15 mom lessons, and they are growing all the time. So right now we have 15 mom lessons. We have many more in the works for this year. Mom lesson 1 is about rhythm. It's really about harnessing that rhythm and making you feel good about it. Mom lesson 2 is all about the Waldorf curriculum and how it applies at home. Mom lesson 3 is on inner work. Mom lesson 3 is like a course in of itself because it has about 40 hours worth of inner work podcasts. Mom lesson 4 is all about temperament. It's really helping you harness it for yourself. If you are still struggling with it today, it really will help you. Mom lesson 5 is all about form drawing. It's a course in and of itself. Mom lesson 6 is all about planning. And I talked a little bit about our Planning for Peace journal. It's included in Mom lesson 6. Mom lesson 7 is drawing and painting. Mom lesson 8 is movement. 9 is modeling. 10 is handwork, and there's a ton of handwork in there. I teach you how to do everything from knitting and crocheting to embroidery. You can get a good start with all of our stuff, and we have a ton of patterns in there too. Mom lesson 11 is festivals. Mom lesson 12 is music. Mom lesson 13 is write your own curriculum. Now this is for the moms that are like, well, I like the curriculum out there, but I really want to write my own. The Writing Your Own Curriculum course is a huge course, and it goes through all of Steiner's foundations for all of the grades. And it also pulls in some state standards. So if you're really worried about, I don't know, keeping Common Core standards, which are pretty much the same as a lot of other standards worldwide, this teaches you how to do it with Waldorf in mind. We also have Mom Lesson 14, which is Thrive, and it's our partners program. So my husband, Eric, and I are marriage coaches, and we work with families from all over the world. And we really have put together a program that husbands can understand. And guess what? My husband is part of the program too. So it's not just me. A lot of men go, oh yeah, that lady that you listen to all the time. It's great when my husband can step in. And if you haven't caught him on our Monday videos, you should watch some of the videos with him in it. He is, he's got a film degree. So he's used to being behind the camera. It's really funny today because he wanted to make sure that all the blinds were down and that my lighting was okay. And then we forgot that it gets dark. So hopefully my lighting is not horrible right now, but you've only got my screen in front of you, so it's all good. But he is getting used to being in front of the camera more because he has a lot to share as a phlegmatic dad, as a dad that's home with kids, learning how to hold the space, all of that. And I love that he can bring it for parents. So catch our Monday videos and definitely think about our Thrive program, which is included in this program. Mom Lesson 15 is on schooling several children. So I have moms say to me all the time, I have got like 6 kids and I don't know what end is up. Well, guess what? I know how to help you with that one. The schooling several children Mom Lesson is really for those moms that are really struggling with that. And we have more Mom Lessons in the works for this year. I'm not going to give away anything right now, but I'm just going to say that they're going to be pretty amazing. So that in and of itself, just the Mom Lessons is worth about $750 plus. Then what's included, the other thing that's included is homeschool curriculum. So we have Waldorf-based homeschool curriculum from kindergarten through 6th grade that's complete. And we have guides for 7th, 8th, and 9th, and high school is in the works. So we've been working on high school. I really wanted to get stronger with my own teaching of high school. And, I'm working on the 3rd child that's a junior this year. So we're really going to be belting out the rest of those. So you really don't have to stress out about, oh no, she only goes up to 3rd grade, or oh no, we go through all the grades. And what the great thing is the moms that are part of our Thinking, Feeling, Willing program, if they're working on a grade or they want to blend a grade that I haven't put together, I work with them personally and I really help them do that. Our curriculum is based on Steiner and what he recommends for each class or each grade, and it is refined for the homeschooling experience into lessons that are easy to plan and a joy to present. The program includes digital copies, and hard copies are included at a deep discount, and that discount is for worldwide copies. So you don't have to worry about if you live in Borneo. You don't have to worry about, oh no, shipping's going to be insane. Often moms will message me and say, are you sure it's only this cheap and I live in the UK? Yep, I'm sure. So the curriculum alone is worth about $510 for all of the years. And then the other extras that we have, I said we have our Planning for Peace program. Our new Music Unfolds music curriculum is an amazingly crafted curriculum that's written by a music teacher for those who don't know music. So I am one who, I don't read music. In fact, I played the flute when I was in school. And I can remember my mom saying to me, I think we should be done with the flute because the dog would howl every time I played the flute. So I was like completely not wanting to do that. So with my older kids, I struggled through the recorder and we got through it, but I really wanted something better with my younger two. And thankfully, Kimberly Parsons, my co-author, came along and we have written a beautiful beginning to end, starts with kindergarten, goes through 3rd grade curriculum for music, and it's included in our program. I've also got the lovely Siglinda DeFrancesca's Calling with Block Crayons back in our program. It was in our program a long time ago, and then it was away, and now it's back, and I'm super excited, hoping to get her to do some stuff with us soon. She is a dear friend of mine, and we talk often. So I think that it's pretty safe to say that the members of our program will be hearing from her sometime in the future. So we also have an exclusive Facebook support group. So if you've been on other Facebook groups and there's a lot of cattiness that goes on, that doesn't happen in my groups because I just don't allow it. So Kelly and I, Kelly is my amazing assistant, and she does all of the adminning for a lot of the groups. I also have some other trusted moms that are doing some adminning for some of my other groups, and there really is a different feel. If you've been on other Waldorf homeschool groups and you just don't like the way it feels, you should come on over and try us. Especially, we have a free group called the Ask Melissa group. You'll see there, that's just kind of gives you a little flavor of just how we like to operate. You also get with your program, you get online mentoring through that takes you through your journey. I don't care if you send me 100 emails. It's all good. I will answer them, or you can send me Facebook Messenger. We mentor through privately and through our groups. And there's help that's tailored to your needs. So if you've got something specific, then there's help that's definitely tailored to your needs. And you have lifetime updates and access to everything. So when I say everything, what you see on the Waldorf Essentials website right now is what you will have access to for life. And we add to it on a continual basis. So, when was the last time that you bought a book and the update came out, and then you have to go and get the update? So like one of my favorite books is You Are Your Child's First Teacher. I think since I was my child's first teacher a lot of years ago, that book's gone through 3 updates. And wouldn't it be lovely if I could just walk into Barnes & Noble and have them hand me a new book? It doesn't work like that. But with us, it does. It definitely does. You have lifetime updates and access to everything. So I want to say too, this program is worth thousands of dollars. It was crafted by a mom, by me, and a dad who have homeschooled every week for the last 17 years. That's my husband, sweet man. And it was crafted by a family for families. I have spent years and years refining it. These are our children. They're a little bit nuts. This is my nutty preemie that you would never know was a preemie. My oldest son, this is my son that actually chose to go to high school that wasn't at home, but he was at home through 9th grade. So people ask me questions about him all the time. My daughter who loves to have her hair all crazy. This is Super Sam right here. He's a little nutty. All of them are. It's my father-in-law sort of has this funny thing. He says that his family is like the Cadbury fruit and nut bar. I think he's right. I think he's right. I totally think that's us.
Melissa?
So, yes, ma'am.
You have a question in your messages.
Okay, very good. I will look right now in my messages. Okay, so let's see. So somebody has a question about the planning sheet that I showed with 5th grade. It was pretty extensive, which made me wonder how she does all of that with multiple kids. It seems like in the curriculum, for the most part, there are short lessons, but it made me think otherwise. Also, what can you combine together as a group? Okay, so I'm just going to say our working with several children, we have a lot of podcasts on that. So I want to invite you to there. And that's in our free section on our website. It's under resources, under podcasts. We talk about working with several children on a regular basis. So what I teach you in our working with several children's mom lesson is how to rotate. My children get all of the lessons they need to get every day. I'm going to say it again. My children get all of the lessons they need to get every day. Now, there was a year. Now, right now, I only have 3 at home. But the year that I had that preemie, I also had 3 main lessons and a kindergartner. And everybody got their lessons every day. So I have refined a system that works. It totally, absolutely works. But you have to plan it. That system is in place for how you can really and truly meet everybody's needs. You asked about combining. In Waldorf, there's not a ton of combining. And the reason being, every child's year is really tailored to them. However, I will say places where we combine, sometimes in music we will combine. In handwork, sometimes you can combine. As they get older, like I can remember, it was so much fun when I had the big 3 at home, and they were like stair steps. So, they were like 12, 14, 16, and we would have like Geography Jeopardy, and we would do fun things like that. And there were times that I was able to combine my older 2 boys, maybe in a science topic. But really and truly, it depends on the ages of your children. If you have children that are under 9 and really under 12, there's not a lot of combining that happens. But you should not let that scare you, because if you work it the way I teach you, it will work. You have to keep those things in mind: rhythm, temperament, self-care. When you have those pieces in place, then it will absolutely help you fly for the rest of the time. And like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. This isn't me blowing smoke. This is actually what I do every day.
Here, can I chime in for a second?
Yes, ma'am.
So
Thank
I
you.
was a client before I was Melissa's assistant. I was actually a client for a very long time. I have 8 children. 6 of those children have some kind of special needs. Melissa has worked with me and helped me. Yes. So we've worked really hard together and we have made this work. 4 of my kids are now adults. I have one that's a junior, one that's a freshman, and 2 6th graders right now. So it absolutely works if you do the work.
Absolutely works. You
There's
just have to do the work.
Yeah, and there's nothing that this program can't help you work through at all. I have kids that came from foster care, so we have trauma needs. I have kids with autism, learning disabilities. We are across the board, and we were able to work through all that and make a program.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that, Kelly and I have been together for a long time, like friend wise. And like she said, she did start out as a client. And one of those first things that we did together was make a plan that worked just for her. And that's something that, you can't go to a lot of other curriculum writers and say, hey, can you make a plan that's just for me? But I take the resources that I have and I go, okay, talk to me about your kids and talk to me about where they are. And then we go from there. And so that really, I think that's really helpful and vital. And what's great too, because we have the group that is just for Thinking, Feeling, Willing members, because we have that group, you get the experience of all of the other moms there and moms that have been at this for a long time. We have had the Thinking, Feeling, Willing program in place for almost 6 years. And with that, you've got a lot of experienced moms that are on that group. So it's not just me. I mean, I'm definitely the one that answers the questions and helps you when you need one-on-one. But it's also amazing to have this great group of women that is ready to step up and step forward. And I also want to say too, we have some dads that are homeschooling. They're not on that group, but they definitely work with me on a regular basis. And you have the benefit of my husband. So if you're in a situation where maybe dad's the one that's doing the teaching and you want to know how Eric would, my husband Eric would approach something, you have the ability to ask, and he is always happy to help. He's also, like I said, he was a newspaper reporter after film school, and so he does writing workshops on a fairly regular basis. So when moms say, "I'm really struggling with my, with my teens in writing," I will run stuff by him all the time, and he'll give tips and he'll give thoughts and ask questions. And so you really have the benefit of a lot of talents with this program. I also wanted to say, we have it as one payment of $567 or 12 monthly payments of $55. Don't let that scare you. I want you to think about long range. That's how much one curriculum year costs for a lot of places. We're talking about all of it, the whole enchilada. So it works out to $1.55 a day for a year. Or for the average homeschooler that homeschools for all 12 years, plus 2 of Waldorf kindergarten, it's only $40.50 a year for all of the training, the support, and the curriculum that you need. This program saves you so much money, frustration, and it saves your sanity. So I want you to know that if you're ready to sign up now, you can go to melissanielsen.com/TFW sign up. I'll come back to that in a minute. I want to take a second to talk about who this program is not for, because somebody asked me, do you think your program is for everybody? And at first I was like, yeah, I think it's for everybody, but I really don't think it's for everybody. This program is not suited for anybody that's not ready to look at their own actions in relation to how their family functions, period. If you're not willing to stand up and say, I'm an agent, I'm ready to go for it, I'm ready to make changes, then this program is not for you. This program is not suited for anyone who is not comfortable exploring cultures and religions of the world through the school curriculum. If that is something that you really struggle with, then you might think twice about Waldorf in general, because that's really the foundation of Waldorf. This program is not suited for anybody that's unwilling to be teachable. I give my time, and I'm absolutely happy to knock things around with moms, and I know that there are uncomfortable situations, and moms often will say to me, I really don't want to offend you. And I go, you know what, really, there's nothing you can say to offend me. Not a whole lot anyway. Maybe there's a few things you can say to offend me, but there's really not a lot that you can say to offend me that I have not already heard, or that I am not willing to sort of help you step out of. So I want you to remember, it's not a religious program, but you will be forming or strengthening your bond with Source throughout this program. It's just a foundational part. So what are others saying about this program? I pulled some of our reviews off of our Facebook page for this because I thought that they were great reviews. I want to welcome you to go to Waldorf Essentials with Melissa Nielsen on Facebook. And Kelly can drop that in the comments, and you can see all of the 5-star reviews that we have. These are from women who have been in the same place that you are and are really working to, work through the program. So we have a lot of 5-star reviews. In fact, all of the reviews are 5-star reviews, and I promise I didn't pay them. So this is what happens next. What happens next is if you go to the sign up, and this is just a mock-up of your phone, then you will see the checkout page here. It will take you then from the melissanielsen.com site to the Waldorf Essentials site. Time for Q&A. I want to know, have we got more questions? I'm going to pull up the chat box here and see, are there any questions? Mandy says, I'm going to just read these if that's okay, Kelly, and then shout at me if I miss any. Mandy says, what if you've already messed this year up? What are the steps to getting caught up quickly, and should we just start in the next school year? So my first question would be, I'm sorry. This was a private question, but I'm going to answer it anyway because you know what? I don't think you're the only one who has this question, so I apologize. But I'm going to say that I get a lot of moms that come to Waldorf a little bit later, or maybe they feel like they have just floundered all year long. And now they're like, okay, well, rubber meets the road. Dad's wanting to know what I'm doing. Maybe you have to report to a contact teacher at a charter school. Maybe grandma's like breathing down your throat and you're finally like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe things are not going as well as I want. And I need to sort that out. Well, it's all fixable. Everything is fixable. We just look at where you are. So we look at those evaluations and we see where you are. And then we look at your children. If you've got children in the grades, I ask key questions like, okay, talk to me about where they are with math. How are they doing with their reading? Where are they with writing? Especially as we have some older children that come to Waldorf maybe in 3rd or 4th grade. And what I am always shocked at is even homeschoolers. I am always shocked at the struggle that some of these children have when it comes to writing. And so the Waldorf method of doing that, and we lay that out in a free video if you want to watch our Monday videos. The Waldorf method for doing that lays it down piece by piece by piece to make kids more comfortable. It is not throwing them into a ring of needing to write all of a sudden. And we take kids that have come to Waldorf a little bit later and we step that into them bit by bit by bit. And the same thing with math, the same thing with reading. I have moms that come to me and say, we've unschooled for the last 2 years and now my child's really ready to read and I really just don't know where to start. That's okay. That's totally okay because I can help you tailor a plan. We start at the beginning and we move forward step by step by step. Maybe you have a struggling reader and you're really trying to get them over that hump of reading. I have been there. Like I said, I'm teaching the 5th child to read. And it is a process that's slow and painstaking. And if we start that process too early, we will get frustrated because they're be too bouncy and just not ready. And if we start that process, what we think is too late, it's definitely not too late. We just come into it and we go step by step by step. So it's never about having things messed up. We can always fix. Everything is fixable. Everything is fixable. If you feel like you've messed the year up and you're trying to reorient yourself, this is a great place to be. It really is a great place to be because reorienting yourself is really like the first step. It's that old saying about admitting that there's something wrong is like the first step in fixing that there's something wrong. And so it's really about just taking that first step. And it really is it's not as hard as it thinks. So I'm going to read this comment is to everybody. She says, we came to Waldorf late and I'm struggling with not adding to the curriculum. Okay, let me just stop you cold there. So I want to say this. So it looks sparse. It only looks sparse because we're used to schooling for hours and hours and hours a day. Those of us who came from a public school model, or maybe you homeschooled with another method, you're used to doing all of the subjects every day. That's not how Waldorf works. Waldorf is deliberate. Remember we talked about rhythm being deliberate? Well, that's how the education as a whole is. It's very deliberate. Step by step by step by step. So when we look at lessons that might not seem very, very thorough, we have to step back and go, wait a minute. So a mom will say to me, I'm looking at this lesson, it's only a paragraph long. And I go, well, did you paint? Did you model? Did you draw with block crayons? Because each one of those steps is part of the lesson. So the lesson for, say, a first grader or second grader, even third grader or fourth grader, part of the lesson is the art. So when you look at a regular main lesson, just pick any main lesson block. Let's just pick, a fables block for second grade. So within that block, you get, if you're doing the drawing and the modeling and the painting, you get the art component. And that art component is vital. It is absolutely vital. So if you're saying, hey, I need to gain these skills, you are in the right place because I can help you gain those skills. And I can help you gain them pretty quickly. Even if you don't think you can do art. Because trust me, you can. You have very patient people at your side. So art is part of that. So you have art lesson. The literacy part of that lesson would be from the story. Then you would have a reading portion. And I usually have sustained reading after they're reading very well. I usually have sustained reading for a child that's 5 minutes per year per age. So, like a 9-year-old should be 9 times 5. A 10-year-old, 10 times 5, that kind of thing. I do cap it because my children like to read. So if I don't cap it at an hour, then we're doing school until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that doesn't work for me. So you've got those 3 things covered. You can cover math with beanbags in circle time. So, and that would be like times table practice back and forth. So there are 4 things covered. Writing then comes in with the summary. So you're working on a summary the day after you do the story. The story's gone to sleep. You've done the drawing from the story. You come back the next day and you work on the summary together. So you work on the summary together until they're at the end of 3rd grade, beginning of 4th grade, depending on the child. By the middle of 4th grade, they need to be doing all of their own summary work. But you've laid that foundation every step of the way from the beginning. So you get all of those components in there. So when you're looking at adding to the curriculum, I want you to take a deep breath and go, wait a minute, what am I adding? You shouldn't need to be adding any grammar. No grammar starts until about 3rd grade. And then it's like a good amount. So it's in all of the writing that they do. You do not need an extra grammar resource. You do not need an extra math resource. Waldorf math is very, very thorough. Very thorough. And people look at it and they go, it's just gnomes and playing. But you know what? In 1st grade, public school, they do not get all of the math processes on the same day. In Waldorf, all the children know how to work with plus, minus, divide, and multiply all at the same time. That is a skill that only comes from learning and understanding whole to parts. So there are many, many things that are foundational pieces to this curriculum that you will not get anywhere else. So I'm going to read this other one here. How can you organize to homeschool a 1st grader if you have a 1-year-old? Husband works also on the weekends and no family to help. Well, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. I'm going to suggest that you spend some time, just hear me out, meditating on somebody to help you. It doesn't have to be a big somebody, just somebody to help you. Somebody at church or a civic organization, another friend that you know that has children that you could swap time with. That's where I would start. But when a funny thing happens when you open up to the universe and you say, please show me, guess what? People start to show up. So you have to sort of ask for it. So there's that whole ask and it is given thing. Absolutely. If you build it, it will come. So you want to start there. And I totally understand. The years that we had an infant or a toddler in the house were some of the craziest, but also some of the most fun years that we had. I usually would assign an older child to a younger child. And that's like just a managing of big family sort of situation. Like, for instance, when Soraya was 2 and pulling all of the books off the shelf, Samuel's job as a then 7-year-old was to put all of those books back on the shelf. So I paired children up with, and of course he would say, but Mom, and I would say, but remember, Eleanor picked up all the books for you when you were 2 and you pulled all the books off the shelf. So we have this very much a family atmosphere where everybody is helping, everybody is working together. And you have to instill that early. That does not come on its own. It absolutely has to be cultivated. You have to cultivate it from the beginning. And if you're stepping into this late and you haven't cultivated it and things are falling apart, I just have to tell you, it is okay. You can absolutely fix that. Everything is fixable. Remember, I said that. So organizing homeschooling a first grader, first things first, go through those three rules that I gave you. You want to make sure you have curriculum that you connect with. You want to make sure you read it cover to cover. And excuse me, then you want to make sure that you start that planning. And with that planning, you have to look at what it is that you're struggling with. So if you're looking at the first grade curriculum and you're thinking to yourself, I really don't know squat about painting wet on wet. It is foreign to me. I don't know what I'm going to do. There's a mom lesson that takes you through the whole thing, and we help you step by step by step by step. So then pretty soon you've got that Rapunzel painting and you are knocking it out of the park, and you're doing well with it. And when do you do that? Sometimes you do that during nap time. I get up before my kids and I paint. Sometimes I'll make sure that everybody's in bed at a good hour, which everybody should be in bed at a good hour too. Anyways, that's the sneak peek at one of the mom lessons that's coming. Sleep. But I make sure that sleep is priority so that I have the time that I need for me. And that time for me is sometimes lesson planning. And you have to own it. Like I said, you have to own it and you have to decide this is where I want to be. So any other questions? I hope that's helpful. Absolutely happy. Okay, so Marilyn asks, is Waldorf compatible with a family that travels a lot, like 1 to 2 months? Yes, ma'am. 1 to 2 months at a different place and a time? Yes, ma'am, it is. In fact, I have to tell you that that's one of our goals, our dreams. We have Eleanor, who's 17. Once she's launched, I have every thought that we are going to be doing a lot more traveling. It's absolutely compatible, especially if you do your planning. So we often, when we lived in Utah and Idaho, we would take trips because we love the coast so much. We would take trips here, but they were always school trips. So I always just made sure my planning was done, packed it up. I kept a good size bag that, was a nice, I was trying to think, there's that company that makes bags that has like pockets everywhere. Excuse me. Those were golden for those days because I would put everything in there, main lesson books in there. Everybody had their own set of crayons. I had everything condensed in that bag, and that bag sat in the back of the car and went with us everywhere. And we would go from Salt Lake City to Southern California. And I can remember when my oldest son was in 7th grade, we came here to go to Cabrillo National Monument because we were studying explorers. And he did almost the entire explorers block while we were here on a vacation. So we absolutely do things. The biggest issue you will have is making sure that you are keeping your rhythm up. So some tips for that. I always am planning things out. The things that will knock off your rhythm when you're traveling are not the same things completely that will knock off your rhythm at home. They are things like making sure that people are eating on time. At home, you can just go to the fridge, pull something out. But when you're traveling, you have to be even more deliberate about making sure that you don't have the overs, the overtired, the overhungry, overstimulated. So I really got very good at making sure that those things were taken care of. So if you plan your menus well for your trip and you plan to really get all of those pieces, those ducks in a row, then you'll be golden. I see that Miss Kelly has put up our bonus, the check-in, the Waldorf check-in PDF. If you click on that, you'll open the PDF. And don't laugh. I had a lot of fun creating it. And excuse me, I have to say it came from my life, from the times that I woke up and I was like a zombie and thinking there is no way I'm doing school today. So there's some definite tips that you can go through, a checklist that you can go through there on how to get through those days. But one thing that you have to make sure of, and Kelly is really good about saying this too, because she works with a lot of people that have a lot of special needs kids. So she works with a lot of attachment and therapy people. She says, and I love it when you say this, Kelly, you can go down that road, but do not stay camped out there. I love it when you say that because you cannot stay camped out in the place of being frustrated. You cannot stay camped out in the place of not having your ducks in a row. You have to be an agent. You have to take advantage of the skills that you now have. You've been to this class. So what will you do with those skills? even if you don't become a member of our group, what will you do with those skills? You have new skills now. Go and use them. Go and really make a difference in in your children's lives and in your family's life. And I want you to take time to like let it sink in and soak in tonight. And if you wake up with 1,000 questions tomorrow, join the Ask Melissa group. Ask us some questions there. We're happy to answer. And if you've got questions about becoming a member, send a message to me, send a message to Kelly, and we will get right back with you. And like I said, we're keeping the bonuses open until Tuesday. I know a lot of people are expecting tax returns. And so this is a great way to make that go farther. I mean, if you think about spending the money now and how it will help you in years to come, I invite you to look at those reviews on our Facebook page, because here's what's funny. Most of those moms are veteran moms. They have been at it for a long time, and they have been with me for a long time. And they know the changes that we have made in their lives from the very beginning. So I invite you to take this journey with us. I hope that you will come and get to know us and have a really good time with us. And I really thank you for joining me at this class today. I hope it was helpful and informative, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. We'll see y'all later. Bye now.